Fernando here from Panteao, and here's our discussion about handgun ammunition and ballistics. We're talking about the bullet first. So, a handgun projectile, we're going to focus on the hollow point. We have a jacketed hollow point. We have a bullet that is designed to expand on impact, and by expanding, it's increasing its diameter. It's acting like a parachute in the body, slowing down, transferring that energy within that body, and causing the greatest amount of damage possible. Let's face it, the bottom line is this. If you're up against an adversary, what are you trying to do? What is your end goal? Theoretically, is stay alive. Theoretically, is to be able to live the next day. You're trying to defend yourself and your family. So the bottom line is, no matter what you're looking at in a projectile, you're worried about incapacitation time. That's what's critical. From the moment you draw your handgun and you engage that adversary with a round from your handgun, the clock starts. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. The clock is ticking. How quickly is that person going to realize that a bullet impacted him? He really needs to rethink the situation, and maybe now he should leave you alone. I mean, I'm really dumbing it down here, but the bottom line is, if someone is out to hurt you or out to kill you, you need to stop their actions. So a projectile is intended to stop those actions. Now, yes, you can shoot multiple rounds to stop those aggressions faster. I mean, that is why we have drills where you keep shooting until the person stops. But what are we doing? We're not showing them our wonderful $4,000 1911 or a brand new custom Glock. We're hitting them with rounds out of that custom weapon or out of that bone stock weapon. So those rounds are what matter. And what those rounds are doing in the human body are critical. So incapacitation time is what we need to look at. How quickly that person is going to stop his actions, whether that means he's going to drop dead right in front of you and stop that way, or he's going to stop moving forward at you and he's going to crumble to the floor and now he's going to need medical assistance, but he is no longer a threat to you. Or worst case scenario, you have multiple adversaries and you have to now engage multiple people, and you want to make sure that when you're giving a little to each, the first person you shot isn't already charging at you, trying to grab you by your throat and take that gun and shove it someplace where the sun don't shine. So you want to make sure incapacitation time is critical. So that goes back to your ammunition. So ammunition. Handgun ammunition is designed to work in certain, we call it a window of performance, a certain velocity window. So a hollow point bullet, obviously you want it to expand. By having a bullet expand, it's doing what it's supposed to do. That's what the engineers want it to do. So, what velocity is that bullet going to be driven to in order for it to expand? Well, there's going to be a low side and a high side. So, let's focus on, say, 9mm 115 grain projectile. A 9mm 115 may be designed to expand as slow as 900 feet per second and expand all the way to, say, 1,300 feet per second. What happens when it goes below the threshold of, say, 900 feet per second? Well, it may not expand. It may stay as a jacketed hollow point, and you can retrieve it and reload it because it has some lands and groove marks on it, but it did not expand. That is outside the window of performance. Now, let's say you drive that projectile beyond 1,300 feet per second. Instead of 1,300 feet per second, it's doing 1,500 feet per second because you shot it out of a longer barrel, or maybe a subgun like an MP5 or a Colt carbine, M4 style carbine that's 9mm. Well, that projectile might go faster than it was intended design-wise, so now it may start to shred apart on impact, causing it to go less deep or more shallow penetration. So, an important thing to understand, no matter what projectile is out there, there's no smoke and mirrors, there's no pixie dust, it's not that wonderful finish they put on the bullet, it's not that fancy name they give it. It's a projectile with a window of performance designed to expand between a certain velocity and a certain velocity. That's critical. That's the key thing. So, what does that mean to you? Well, let's go back to that 9mm. Let's say you carry a Glock 34, a nice long slide. Your velocity out of that Glock 34 is going to be vastly different than maybe the smallest Glock out there, say like a Glock 26. So your duty weapon may be a Glock 17, a little bit shorter than a Glock 34, a lot longer than a Glock 26. So that barrel length with that Glock may be optimum for that particular load. The Glock 34, the longer barrel, may already be beyond that bullet's window of performance. And maybe that Glock 26 may also be out of that bullet's window of performance. So that is something we need to focus on next, is the bullet window of performance and how that impacts your particular lifestyle and your particular handgun. We'll get to that next.